Thank you, Kyle and Laura. In the fall of 2008, our financial system came within hours of collapsing completely. Solvent firms were asked, then begged, then virtually required to take on the toxic assets of those that were flailing. Still short of resources, the government stepped in, bailing out the zombies and telling us all how smart they were in avoiding another Great Depression. Howls of outrage were heard far and wide, most blaming free markets or greedy capitalists for the meltdown. Few understood the real reasons behind the debacle. Thomas Woods is one of those people. A New York Times best-selling author, graduate of Harvard and Columbia Universities, and senior fellow of the Ludwig von Mises Institute, Dr. Woods has appeared on numerous TV networks and hundreds of radio programs. Tonight, Dr. Woods will help us understand the real reasons behind the meltdown. You're going to leave this event smarter, wiser, and better able to join the fight in pushing back the relentless tide of government intervention. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Thomas Woods.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Professor Knoll. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Campaign for Liberty and Young Americans for Liberty for all your efforts, which I appreciate very much. You notice I have a foot injury. Now, I thought it might be kind of crude to come out here and say that the foot injury is from all the ass-kicking I've been doing, so I thought I wouldn't actually say that. But it actually is a bit of a mystery what exactly is wrong with it. So anybody in here who is a podiatrist, without getting any authorization to do this, I hereby invite you to come to the VIP reception, help me figure out what the heck is going on here, but it's actually much more comfortable to walk around on this wooden slab. I don't know why that is, but hence I am doing it. And I got some looks from the TSA, but that would keep us here for a whole lot longer. Well, what I want to do tonight is a couple things to make sure I don't keep you crazily long, but is do a couple of things. I want to say something about sort of where we've been and what happened and what the causes were. But I'm going to focus primarily on one cause, not to say that's the only cause, but I did write this book, Meltdown, that tries to spell out all the contributing factors. But given that we're here together just for tonight, I'll focus on one that I think is super important but often neglected in particular. But then toward the end, I then want to move on to discuss another problem that we haven't yet faced, but that is staring us in the face and that we are about to confront over the next 10 or so years. 10 or so years is way, way beyond the time horizon of anyone who runs for office. Nobody who runs for office expects that he'll be in 10 years or he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it. But we have to think that far ahead. We have to plan ahead as citizens. So I want to talk about both things. What's happened to us and what's likely to happen unless there are genuine radical changes. Radical changes of the good sort. Now let me begin by saying that when I travel, my main problem, at least so far, I haven't had the TSA problem, thankfully. We'll see what happens to that in the future. Maybe I'll be in another one of these cause celeb situations, but mainly it's that I'm always leaving my family. Every time I travel, I have to be careful that I ration my travel, that I pick my events carefully, or otherwise my kids would never see me. So I was very glad to be able to come here, but I've got 4 children, age 7 and under, the youngest being 9 months, and they are all girls. Yeah, a little murmur in the crowd. Isn't that funny? Yeah, that's funny. Every time I tell people that I got 4 girls under age 7, there is that little murmur. Like I feel like I'm the butt of some joke that I don't even know about yet. But we'll see what the future holds. I don't know what you could be talking about because they're wonderful sweethearts. I can't imagine you would think they were going to break my heart someday or cause problems. But my eldest daughter, Regina, apparently is extremely observant. Because I'm not making this, people tell stories about their kids, yeah, I heard all your little kid stories, enough's enough. But this one I just can't resist. Because Regina, not long ago, was talking to a friend of hers. And they were talking about some story, 19th century story involving penny candy and all the different things that you could buy with a penny. And her friend said to her, well, you know, Regina, what do you think about this story? I think it's kind of silly because we all know penny buys hardly anything. And Regina said, yeah, thanks to the Fed. All right. Just warms my heart. You know, there's a tear coming to my eye. You know, there's a lump in my throat as I relate that story to you. All right, well, obviously, I guess for those of you who are sort of in the know, it's unavoidable that I'm going to make mention of the Austrian School of Economics. I hope you're not bored of hearing of this. If you are, then it's just too freaking late. There's no way you're getting out of it. But this is very, very important. Like, people got to learn this stuff. And every time I speak to a new audience, you know, I realize there are people in the audience who have read an enormous amount in the Austrian School. Other people don't even know what the heck I'm talking about. So I got to somehow, you know, reach everybody. So I want to introduce this. Because here we are living through a crisis that very, very few people predicted. In fact, to the contrary, most people agreed with the conventional wisdom, which was the economy is chugging along just fine. There don't seem to be fundamental problems, or at least nothing that, you know, our human ingenuity can't solve, and so on. And we should get in that stock market and buy like crazy, and the financials are all looking sound, and so on and so forth. So naturally, when that suddenly collapses, almost without warning, it's only natural that people want to know, well, wait, not only what happened, but how come all you people didn't tell us it was going to happen? How come you told us the opposite? And who were the people who did know that it was going to happen? And so in particular, it's the Austrian School of Economics that can boast economists that have been warning about this for some time, that warning that the housing market had been artificially inflated, a lot of this prosperity is not real, it's phantom prosperity. And some of these people were actually laughed at for saying these things. And now it turns out they've been vindicated. So people want to know, what is this Austrian School of Economics? Well, of course, it's not a building, it's not a place, it's a school of thought. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the country of Austria, it has nothing to do with the GDP of Austria. It's just the name given to the school because the early practitioners of the school happen to be from Austria. But today, most of the Austrian economists, so-called, are actually in the United States. So it has nothing whatsoever to do with Austria. The Austrian school is the oldest continuously existing school of economic thought in the world. It is probably still the smallest, but it is the fastest growing, I am sure, in part because of the crisis that we've just lived through, in part because Ron Paul has promoted it, and in part because of the internet. The people can now have access to opinions and points of view that would have been entirely unavailable to them unless they had been looking around in dusty old library stacks. Because now we have something called YouTube, where we can go around the gatekeepers of fashionable opinion and learn different things. We can hear from people who have something different to say other than the way out of the crisis is to borrow a lot of money and spend it, or no, the way out of the crisis is to print a lot of money and spend it, and that's the entire debate you're allowed to have. Well, now suddenly we have access to people who are saying, no, both of these solutions are in fact juvenile, and in the long run are going to make things worse. And there's the Austrian school. So for instance, if we count all the foreign language translations, we've got 2 million views of a rap video about Austrian economics versus the economics of the economist John Maynard Keynes. And it depicts the Austrian economist F.A. Hayek, who's a Nobel Prize winner, and he and Keynes are rapping with each other. You think, well, this sounds pretty lame to me. No, you got to watch this thing. Just type in Hayek, there's H-A-Y-E-K, Hayek rap, and this thing will come up. It's called Fear the Boom and Bust, and it's unbelievable because somehow you find yourself drawn to it. I have a friend who's in his 70s, who's an economics professor, and somebody asked him, do you think the popularity of this video will attract more interest for the Austrian School of Economics? And he said, well, yes, but oddly enough, the effect that it had on me was it gave me a lot more interest in rap music. So it's a wonderful cross-generational experience that we're all having thanks to this thing.